On May 15, 1911, the United States government ordered the total dissolution of Standard Oil. It was a historic legal strike intended to shatter John D Rockefeller's monopolistic power forever. But the punishment backfired. Splitting his empire into 34 separate pieces actually caused the value of his shares to triple. The legal ruling designed to ruin him officially pushed his net worth close to $1 billion, making him the richest person in modern history. This resilience was no accident. It was the deliberate result of a machine designed by a man who valued total control above all else, an empire that proved more valuable in pieces than it ever was as a whole. In 1859, the discovery of crude oil in Pennsylvania triggered a frantic rush. Independent miners threw up thousands of wooden derricks across the hillsides, hoping to strike it rich in a turbulent cycle of sudden gluts and total dry spells. Rockefeller despised this chaos. Raised in deep poverty and frequently abandoned by a con artist father, he had an intense psychological need for order and stability. Mining was a gamble, and he refused to bet his livelihood on unpredictable geysers. But the crude oil itself wasn't the prize anyway. When purified with sulfuric acid, it turned into kerosene, a cheap fuel that burned brighter and lasted longer than whale fat. Suddenly, the entire world wanted a kerosene lamp in their home. Rockefeller realized the real power wasn't in pulling the oil out of the dirt. The power was in the choke point. By building a refinery, he positioned himself directly between thousands of desperate miners and millions of eager consumers. He didn't need to own the raw materials. He just needed to control the bottleneck they had to flow through. With his refinery operational, Rockefeller needed a way to move kerosene to the masses. He approached major railroads with a lucrative offer, guaranteed massive daily shipments of oil in exchange for steep, secret freight discounts. But the discount wasn't enough. Rockefeller engineered a covert drawback. When competing refiners paid the railroad secretly transferred a percentage directly to Standard Oil. Because competitors subsidized his shipping, Rockefeller dropped consumer prices, bleeding the other refiners dry. He would wait until a rival was on the brink of bankruptcy, then offer to buy their machinery for pennies. Using this pressure point, he swallowed 22 of Cleveland's 26 independent refiners in just 6 weeks, an event remembered as the Cleveland Massacre. This strategy is called horizontal integration, buying up all the competing businesses at your exact level of the supply chain. By absorbing all the regional refining capacity, Rockefeller created an inescapable mathematical trap. To compete with him, rivals had to pay the very transportation network designed to bankrupt them. Eventually, the railroad barons realized they had helped create a monster. Panicking over Standard Oil's leverage, executives at the powerful Pennsylvania Railroad tried to break his grip by building their own competing oil refineries. Rockefeller's response was absolute. He abandoned the railcars entirely and laid thousands of miles of his own underground pipelines across the eastern seaboard. He pumped crude straight to his facilities, cutting the railroads out of the equation entirely. From there, the expansion never stopped. When deposits of cheap, sulfur-heavy crude called skunk oil were found in Ohio, nobody else wanted it. Rockefeller hired a team of chemists to strip the smell away, cornering a brand new supply. He even figured out a way to monetize a highly flammable waste byproduct of the refining process, a liquid called gasoline. If another titan threatened him, he invaded their territory. Anticipating friction with steel magnate Andrew Carnegie, Rockefeller bought up the massive Mesabi iron ore range in Minnesota, quietly securing a superior supply of the exact mineral Carnegie needed to survive. Standard Oil functioned as a predatory industrial apex, its reach so pervasive it drew comparisons to a monster strangling the nation's infrastructure. By absorbing the oil wells, the pipelines, the transport, and the retail outlets, Rockefeller mastered vertical integration. He owned every step of the process. Standard Oil was completely insulated from outside economic forces, operating less like a company and more like a sovereign, self-sustaining nation. But the wall of secrecy protecting that nation finally cracked. An investigative journalist named Ida Tarbell, whose own father had been financially ruined by Standard Oil's tactics, began publishing deep dives into the company. She dragged Rockefeller's secret rebates, corporate spies, and intimidation campaigns directly into the public spotlight. The resulting public outrage caught the attention of President Theodore Roosevelt. Looking for a powerful target to cement his political legacy, Roosevelt unleashed the Department of Justice, charging Standard Oil with violating anti-monopoly laws. After years of litigation and thousands of pages of damning evidence, the Supreme Court handed down its verdict. Standard Oil was found guilty and ordered to dissolve into 34 separate, independent entities. Yet, the government missed a crucial detail. Rockefeller retained about a quarter of the stock in every single one of those 34 newly formed companies. Right as the breakup happened, consumer automobiles hit the market. Demand for gasoline surged, and the combined value of his fragmented empire tripled. In his twilight years, the richest man on earth stepped away from the boardroom. He turned his obsessive focus entirely toward philanthropy. Over his lifetime, he gave away more than $500 million. He poured astronomical sums into eradicating diseases like hookworm and malaria, establishing modern medical research, and funding universities across the globe. The same analytical ruthlessness used to dismantle rivals eventually became the engine for global progress, funding the very foundations of modern medicine and scientific research. It was a final, cold calculation. A machine built to crush competition had been repurposed to build the modern world.